Welcome back everyone to the ultimate guide to Blender 3D rigging and animation, and this is where we left it off. Alright, let's come then to our actual whip. So, we've already in the actual course done a swing cycle. We need to actually mix that now with the actual branch as well. So the first thing I'm going to do again is I'm going to press Ctrl A, all transforms, right click to origin geometry, Shift S, cursor to selected, and then let's bring in our first bone. So Shift A, let's bring in an armature. This is going to be the root bone, of course. So I'm going to move it back to something like that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Tab, and I'm going to press Shift A, bring in the first bone. So R, Y, 90. Let's have it pointing the right way. I'm going to move it up a little bit, not with that bit, with this bit here, like so. I want to bring it out a little bit as well, like so. And then just have it like so. Now you could actually use probably bendy bones here and have it bend a little bit, but I don't think I'm actually going to. But you do have the capacity now to actually do that, so that's great. The next thing that I want to do is the next bone is actually quite important because I don't want these these parts here moving. I just want it moving with the actual whip here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I'm going to grab then these two here. So you can see if I grab these two here, then what I should be able to do is press Shift S, cursor to selected like so, and put it bang in the middle of there. Now if I come back to my bones, press Tab, when I bring in a new bone, it should appear right where I want it. So now all I need to do is RX 180, spin it round, make it a little bit taller, like a little bit smaller, sorry, like so. And now that should be right in the middle, and I'm just going to move it over there somewhere, just so it's a little bit more in line with my actual whip. All right, so now let's come and actually name our armature, and we'll call it whip rig, like so. And then we'll come to this bone here, F2, and it's going to be root bone. And then this one, F2, and we'll call this one branch. So I'll just delete that out of the way and call it branch bone, like so. And then finally I'll come to this one, F2, and this will be the actual whip bone, like so. All right, now let's come to our branch. Let's grab our armature, press Ctrl P, and with empty groups. Now the other thing is, of course, I need to come in now and apply these two, so make the parent of the root, so Ctrl P, keep offset, and there we go. Now let's come in first of all to our whip. I'm just going to click on my bone, so I've not got that highlighted as well. Come to my root bone, and then what I'm going to do, sorry, I've done the wrong way around. I need to come to my branch, and then come over to my root bone, press the tab button, press A to grab everything, and just remove them off. Now let's come to the branch. Now the thing is with the branch, this is the one that's going to cause us a little bit of issues, and we need to make sure that we're doing this correctly. So we're just going to leave that one for now. What I'm going to come to is the whip, and I'm going to grab all of this going all the way up. Make sure, by the way, that you're grabbing it in edge select, just to make sure that if there's any seams on there, as you can see there's a seam on there, that you're grabbing it all the way. In other words, it's grabbing the whole of the islands, not just one island that goes up to the seam. So very important that you click on it with the edge select on. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click assign 100%. Now let's come to this this middle bone here. So we want our branch bone, and what we want to do is we want to actually come in and put this onto weight paint. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to paint in where this actual bone is. So you can see I'm going to paint it going all the way over here. Now it's actually important up to a certain point that this is all red. So, and you can also see that these are also being highlighted red, and that's not something I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Ctrl Z and bring that back. So Ctrl Alt Z, bring it back like so. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in and actually hide these out of the way because I don't want those in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this up to a certain point. So you can see branch. I'm going to come in and grab the first ones around here. So I'm just going to press C, grabbing all of these like so. And then all I'm going to do is press Control and plus on the number pad now, have them going all the way up to here, like so. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click, maybe I've gone a little bit too far there, so you can see it's going around here. So Control minus to go back as well. So something like that seems fine. And then all I'll do is I'll assign 100% of the weight. Now what I can do is I can actually go in to my weight paint. I can actually minus this off now. So at the moment we've got draw. We don't actually want it on draw. We want it on to lighten, or subtract's even better. Lighten, you can see, still kind of doing the same thing. So we don't want it on lighten. We want it on to subtract. Now when I come in, should be able to subtract it off. Now you will see I'm just going to subtract these ones off just around here for now. Just get rid of most of that red like so. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract this off a lot less than where it is at the moment. Now, weight painting is based on how the mesh looks like. If I press tab, you can see we've not got many subdivisions on here. So we're not going to have a lot of, kind of variation in the weights or anything like that. Plus, these are triangles as well. And it's not actually the best actual mesh to actually do this with, but it can be gotten away with when we're dealing with something like branches. If we were using, though, a character, the actual mesh, as you can see from this, would need to be much, much better. The topology of the mesh, which I'll put down on the right hand side actually and show you what good topology is versus bad topology, and then you'll actually have an understanding of that. So now let's go in, and what we're going to do is turn the strength down to something like, let's say 0.25, and now you'll see as I come in and click on this, I've actually got less strength now as I'm going around, and that is kind of what I want. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm just bringing that down just a little bit like so. Yeah, and I think that's going to be absolutely fine like that. All right, so that is what you're looking for basically. Now, the moment of truth then. So let's come in, put this back onto object mode. And now what we should be able to do is come into our bones now, put this onto pose mode. And the first thing I'm going to do is grab this bone. And you can see it's grabbing all of those bones because they're the ones that are actually with this. So there is a point on this one, for instance, when you want this bone here to be grabbing everything. But the problem is you don't actually want it to be able to move anything. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come to this, back to my branch here. So let's put it on object mode, like so. And what I want to do is get this bone, the root bone, to be dragging all of this branch. So I'm going to come into my branch. I'm going to grab all of this branch here. And what I'm going to do is the root bone, I'm going to click assign with 100% of the weight. Now I'm going to do is I'm going to go back now to my bones, come back to my pose mode, and now when I move this bone, everything should move with it. And that, on this occasion, is what we actually want. Because if we didn't do that, it would just try and move this kind of branch here. And that's really not something we want. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to actually move this width first. Now, as we spoke about, at the moment, you can see that these have already got something in them because apparently I've moved my timeline. So I'm just going to delete that off. Come to this one, make sure there's nothing there. Come to this one, make sure there's nothing there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to frame 1. And I'm going to move the whip over, let's say, over here. So R and X, move it over here, like so. You can see it's already put that in. Now, let's see how slow we want it. So what I'll tend to do is I'll tend to come to frame 100. And I'll basically press R and X and move it all the way over to the other side, like so. Now, you'll see how slow that is. So if I press spacebar, you can see it's pretty slow. But you can see another thing is the weight is actually perfect on there. So now, slow that down. I'm just going to put it on frame 1. I'm going to press S, and let's try putting it on something. It needs to be really divided up between 300, but you really need the other side going first, and then you can divide it up. In other words, if I put this on, let's say 50, I know then if I grab this one, for instance, press Shift D, bring it to the other side, so 100. Now it should be a continuous loop up to 100, as you can see. And that actually looks really nice. Now, why is that correct, though? Why is it having weight? Because if I press A to grab all these, right-click, go on to interpolation mode, this is already on Bezier. It's not on linear. So if yours is looking a bit jagged, just make sure that interpolation mode is on Bezier. And now what I can simply do is I can simply grab all these, Shift D, bring them up to the next one, and then Shift D again, and bring them up to the next one. So Shift D, bring them up to the next one to 300, like so. Now if I come in now, press the space bar, you'll see we have a really beautiful swing going backwards and forwards all the way up, frame 300. Now you will see that there's a little bit of jaggedness there, and to fix that, all we need to do is bring this one, G, bring it up to frame 200, grab this one, bring it back to frame 200, and now this should move in a really nice flowing way. So let's just make sure of that first. There we go. There we go. And it should restart again once we get here. And there we go, a continuous loop. All right, really, really happy with that. That's that bit done. Now what we need to do is work out from this one. Now, when I move this, as you'll see, if I press R and Y, you'll see the branch moves up and down. And you can see how good that control looks now, because the end of the branch is moving much more than the actual backside of the plant. And the reason we wanted that is because it really is it's going to be much stronger around here than it is on the end of it. So now what we need to do is we need to imagine that someone is moving from over here. So they're grabbing it, moving to here, letting go, and that's when the branch moves up. So let's try and actually repeat that. So the first thing I'm going to do is put it on frame 1. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend this plant down a little bit. So if I press R and Y, bring it down a little bit like so, and you will notice we do have another problem in that these actually should move a little bit with it as well. So we need to actually also bring that into, kind of moving those with it. So let's actually fix that now. So I'm going to again go to object mode, go back to my plant here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Alt H, and now I'm going to grab both of these. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into branch and just assign them. Now what I can do is press Tab, go back to pose mode. Where is, on my bones, that might help. Pose mode, there we go. And now I'm going to move this, so RY, there you go, everything's moving as it should do. Now, we only want this to be very, very slight and subtle. You don't want any huge movements or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to basically bring this down. So I'm going to press R and Y, bring it down, maybe to something like that. And then this is going to be over to here now. So we already know if I click on this, it's going to be at frame 100. So no, it's not. It's going to be at frame 50. There we go, frame 50. So let's come over now. And what I want to do now is at frame 50, which it's on, I want this to have moved up. Now you can see we do have a little bit of an issue with these bones here. And the reason is I think that they're actually also attached to this one here. So I'm going to come to this one and I need to take them off of this here. So you can see that we've actually got weight on these from this one. And what it's kind of doing is it's really stretching it out. And that's really not something that we actually want. So let's fix that before we finish this lesson. So we'll go to object mode like so. And then what I'll do is I'll come to my branch. What I want to do is on the whip. So I want to come to my whip bone. I want to grab both of these now, which are already grabbed. And I want to remove those. Now if I press tab, you'll see that still they're actually having some weight from them. So what I'm going to do now quickly, I'm going to go to weight pane and see what's actually controlling those and pulling them down. So I'm going to go to my branch, there on 100, let's go to the root bone, and there you go, it's to do with the root bone. So the root bone is actually not pushing that down with them. So I actually need to make sure that it's coming down with the root bone. So all I'm going to do now, I'm going to press tab, go to my root bone, click assign, and there you go. That has actually fixed the issue. The other thing I want to do is I want to come to object mode now. I want to hide these out the way like so and just make sure that my whip still looks as though it's in the place. As you can see now, it is. So whether it's up or down, it will still look as though it's in the right place at least. Well, in other words, what I'm trying to say is we're not having to move this whip up and down with the branch. It should move with it. It should look natural the way it is without doing too much work. All right, everyone. So yes, it's sometimes it can be a bit more complex than initially thought. Sometimes you actually have to go in and fix things, but it's good that we actually go in and fix these things now because you will see actually how to fix them. All right, everyone. So I'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.